Water Wars, the battle at Funland. It was a bright and early Saturday morning when Thomas, Wendy, Timothy, and Marco met up at Marco's house to celebrate his 15th birthday. They all brought their swimsuits and sunscreen, ready for a day of fun at Funland, the amusement and water park they had been looking forward to visiting all summer. As they arrived at Marco's house, they were greeted by his parents who offered them breakfast. They sat down at the kitchen table and caught up on the latest gossip. They chatted about school, the new movies that came out, and all their summer plans. After breakfast, they headed to Marco's room to gather his things before leaving for the park. As they were getting ready to leave, they realized they had lost their tickets to the park. They searched everywhere, in the pockets, in the bags, but they were nowhere to be found. They were devastated as they thought their day at Funland was ruined. "Oh no, I can't believe we forgot the tickets," Wendy exclaimed. "Don't worry, guys. I'm sure we'll figure something out," said Timothy, trying to stay positive. "I can't believe we were so careless. I'm so sorry, guys," said Marco, feeling guilty. Just when they were about to give up hope, Marco's older brother came to the rescue. He had purchased the group package for them and had the original tickets in email inbox and quickly printed out an extra copy. They were overjoyed and thanked him profusely. "Wow, thanks, brother. You're the best," said Marco, giving him a high five. "Yeah, we owe you one," said Thomas. Off to the bus station, they shouted in unison. With the tickets in hand, they piled onto the bus and headed to the park. They were so excited to finally be on their way and couldn't wait to experience all the fun and thrills that Funland had to offer. As they arrived at the park, they were met by the sight of the towering roller coasters and water slides. They couldn't wait to start their day of adventure. When they got to the park, they saw what appeared to be a homeless person sitting outside the employee entrance. He looked very sickly, his eyes were bloodshot, and he was coughing badly. Thomas commented, "That's really scary. I hope we don't catch whatever he has." Wendy replied, "I know. It's really tough to see people living like that, but I hope we don't run into him again today." Timothy said, "Yeah, I don't want to get too close to him. It seems like it could be contagious." Marco added, "Guys, I just want to have a good time at Funland and not have to worry about getting sick." They all nodded in agreement and continued on their way, trying not to think too much about the homeless person and his condition. They were focused on enjoying their day at the park, but the encounter with the homeless person lingered in the back of their minds and made them a bit uneasy. Moments later they arrived at the park entrance and immediately had their tickets scanned and walked through the gates. As they entered the park, they were greeted by the sound of music and the sight of people laughing and having a great time. They decided to head straight to the information kiosk to purchase a map of the park and plan out their day of attractions. Once they collected the map, and they carefully studied it together, trying to decide what rides and attractions they wanted to go on first. They all agreed that they had to try the newest water ride, the rapids, and also the tsunami roller coaster that they heard so much about. Without wasting any time, they made their way to the rapids. They all put on their life vests and climbed into the raft. As the ride began, they were splashed with water and felt the thrill of the rapids. They all laughed and screamed as they went down the ride. After the ride, they decided to head over to the tsunami roller coaster. It was an intense ride, but they all loved it. They went on the ride multiple times and even managed to convince Marco, who was scared of heights, to try it. After they decided 5 rides on the tsunami would be enough for now, they walked around the park, taking in all the sights and sounds. They came across a water gun stand, where they could purchase water guns and water balloons to use throughout the day. They all decided to buy a water gun and a handful of water balloons, thinking it would add to the fun of the day. As they continued walking around the park, they came across a water balloon game, where they could play and win prizes. They spent some time playing and laughing together, and Wendy even managed to win a stuffed animal for her efforts. Then their stomachs started grumbling, so they decided to take a lunch break and refuel before continuing on with their day. They found a food stand that served delicious burgers and fries, and they all sat down to enjoy their meal. As the day went on, Wendy suggested they'd go on the Ferris wheel, a classic attraction that offered a beautiful view of the entire park. The others agreed, and they made their way over to the ride. They packed their water guns and balloons into their bags and hopped into the Ferris wheel car and began their ascent. As they reached the top, they marveled at the beautiful view of the park below. But as they were about to begin their descent, the ride suddenly came to a halt, and the car they were in became stuck. As they looked around, they noticed that people in the park were panicking. They could see people running and screaming, and they soon realized that something was happening. They saw clowns chasing people around the park, and they could hear the sound of gunshots. They were confused and scared, not knowing what was happening. Wendy suggested that they should try to climb down the Ferris wheel to get off, but they were hesitant as it was a long way down and they had no idea what was happening on the ground. Timothy suggested that they wait for the park staff to come and help them, but they soon realized that the park staff were also running and trying to escape the clowns. They had no choice but to climb down the Ferris wheel by themselves. They moved carefully and quickly, trying not to panic and fall. After what felt like an eternity, they finally reached the ground. They were relieved and thanked their lucky stars to be safe. As they were on the ground, they heard people scream that the clowns had turned into zombies. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. It was like something out of a horror movie. Suddenly, one of the zombies ran towards them. Thomas, who still had his water gun from the water gun stand, quickly acted and shot the zombie with his water gun. The water beam went straight through the clown's head, and it dropped dead instantly. They were shocked but relieved that the water gun actually worked on the zombie. They realized that the water guns and water balloons they had purchased earlier could be their key to survival. They quickly decided to take back the park and fight the zombies. They headed for the water gun stand to gather more supplies and weapons. As they were running, they saw other park-goers fighting the zombies with whatever they had at hand, from umbrellas to cotton candy sticks. They reached the water gun stand and saw that it was overrun with zombies. They decided to work together to clear them out and gather as many water guns and water balloons as they could carry. As they were leaving the stand, they saw a group of 3 survivors who were also fighting the zombies. They joined forces with them and decided to make a plan to take back the park together. They had a mission now, to save the park and the people in it, and they were determined to succeed, no matter what it took.